The day I realized my wife's heart condition was terminal, the oppressive summer heat felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest, threatening to stop my own heart right alongside hers. For 3 years, I had watched Clara suffer in silence, her soft laughter fading into frail gasps as the humidity of that relentless August heatwave trapped us in our sun-baked home. By the time the sweltering sun reached its peak at noon, the air was so thick you could barely breathe, and I found myself sitting on the porch steps, staring blankly at the dust motes dancing in the blistering light, completely consumed by an overwhelming sense of helpless grief. If this story touches your heart today, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, because sometimes the darkest moments of our lives are illuminated by the most unexpected acts of human grace. Sitting on that porch, feeling completely abandoned by the world, I had no idea that a simple, bizarre invitation from the woman next door would alter the course of my life forever. Our neighbor, an elderly, eccentric widow named Maeve, had lived in the stone cottage beside ours for over 40 years, keeping entirely to herself except for the occasional nod across the property line. But on that scorching Tuesday afternoon, as the heat index soared past 100 degrees, Maeve marched across the withered grass carrying 2 large towels and a look of quiet determination that made no sense given the blazing midday sun. She stood at the bottom of my porch steps, wiped a bead of sweat from her brow, and said with absolute certainty that she had invited me for a midnight swim during the heatwave, even though it was barely 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and despite the fact that she clearly didn't bring a swimsuit. I stared at her in utter confusion, wondering if the brutal heat had finally broken her mind, because she was standing there in a heavy knit cardigan and faded canvas trousers, holding an empty vintage straw tote bag as if we were preparing to dive into a non-existent pool right in the middle of our sun-scorched driveway. When I gently reminded her that it was broad daylight, that we were experiencing a record-breaking heatwave, and that neither of us owned a pool, Maeve merely smiled a pale, distant smile and insisted that the water was warmest when the sun was directly overhead. It was in that strange, disorienting moment that I noticed the trembling in her hands and the deep, haunting sorrow lingering behind her faded blue eyes, a shadow that mirrored the exact agonizing grief I had been carrying inside my own chest for months. Clara was resting inside under the whirring ceiling fan, too exhausted to speak, and I realized that staying in that quiet, suffocating house for one more second would break me completely. So, out of a mix of concern for the old woman's safety and a desperate need to step away from my own relentless nightmare, I nodded, stood up from the porch, and agreed to follow Maeve down the dusty country path toward the woods behind our properties. We walked in silence under the glaring afternoon sky, the midday heat radiating off the cracked earth like a furnace while Maeve led the way with a surprisingly brisk pace for someone her age. The path wound through a thick grove of oak trees that offered only temporary respite from the sun, the air humming with the rhythmic buzzing of cicadas that seemed to amplify the stifling environment. I kept waiting for her to realize her mistake, to turn around and admit that she was confused or lost, but she walked with the unwavering purpose of someone who had traveled this exact route 1,000 times before. As we reached a clearing bathed in intense, golden sunlight, the trees parted to reveal an old, forgotten granite quarry filled with deep, sapphire-blue water that captured the brilliant reflection of the high afternoon sun like a giant, glittering mirror. The sight of the hidden water took my breath away, its cool surface offering a stark contrast to the scorched landscape we had just traversed. Maeve walked right up to the rocky ledge overlooking the water, dropped her empty tote bag onto the sun-warmed stone, and pulled off her heavy cardigan, revealing a simple faded sundress underneath. She looked out over the sparkling expanse of the quarry and explained that 40 years ago, during a summer heat wave just like this one, her younger brother had drowned in these exact waters after sneaking out for an afternoon dip. For 4 decades, she had blamed herself for his death, trapped in a self-imposed prison of guilt and sorrow that had kept her isolated from the world, frozen in the tragic memory of a single hot summer day. She confessed that every year when the heat became unbearable, her mind retreated to that terrible afternoon, searching for a way to rewrite history and find a peace that had eluded her for half a century. Listening to Maeve's raw, painful confession under the brilliant rays of the midday sun broke open something deep within my own soul, releasing the floodgates of sorrow I had been holding back since Clara's diagnosis. I knelt beside the elderly woman on the edge of the granite cliff, and for the first time in months, I wept openly, letting my tears fall into the clear, cool water below as I shared the crushing weight of watching the love of my life slowly slip away. There, under the bright sky, two broken strangers connected not through madness, but through the shared language of grief, finding solace in the realization that neither of us had to bear our heavy burdens entirely alone. Maeve reached out, her weathered hand trembling as she clasped mine, and together we sat at the edge of the quarry, letting the gentle breeze off the water cool our overheated skin and calm our troubled minds. She explained that she hadn't brought a swimsuit because she never intended to swim, she had simply needed someone to witness her grief, someone who understood what it meant to love someone so deeply that their absence or impending loss threatened to consume your entire existence. In that quiet afternoon moment, as the sun began its slow descent across the sky, a profound sense of healing washed over both of us, replacing decades of bitter regret with a fragile, beautiful sense of hope. We stayed by the quarry for hours, talking about Clara, about Maeve's brother, and about how precious every single sunlit moment truly is when you stop running from the pain of the past and start embracing the present. By the time we walked back up the dusty path toward our homes, the suffocating heatwave no longer felt like a curse, but rather like the very catalyst that had brought two lost souls together to find comfort and strength. When I returned to my house, the heavy cloud of despair that had filled the rooms for so long seemed to have lifted, replaced by a quiet, steady resolve to treasure every remaining second I had with Clara. I walked into the bedroom, sat beside her bed, and held her frail hand, telling her all about Maeve, the hidden quarry, and the unexpected gift of grace that had unfolded under the scorching afternoon sun. Clara smiled, a genuine radiance returning to her eyes for the first time in weeks, and as we sat together listening to the gentle hum of the summer afternoon, I realized that true love is not about preventing the storm, but about holding hands as you walk through the heat together. Maeve became a regular part of our lives after that day, visiting us every afternoon with fresh lemonade and a warm heart, proving that even in the middle of life's most brutal heatwaves, compassion can bloom in the most surprising places. Before we reach the final words of our journey today, please take a moment to leave a meaningful comment below sharing your thoughts on forgiveness, grief, or the power of unexpected human connection. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Life often brings us face to face with overwhelming loss and heat, but as long as we open our hearts to those around us, we will always find the strength to heal, forgive, and carry on together under the bright, promising sky.